I had heard the stories about the Queen Mary all my life, about its haunting, the restless spirits trapped within its walls, but I never really believed them. Sure, it was an old ship with a long storied history, but ghosts, that seemed too far-fetched. I was more interested in the idea of walking its decks, touching its railings, and imagining what life must have been like when it was sailing the Atlantic as a grand luxury liner. The idea of staying overnight on the ship seemed like an exciting adventure, not a nightmare. I couldn't have been more wrong. The Queen Mary has been docked in Long Beach, California for decades now, serving as a floating hotel. When I booked my stay, I didn't request one of the rooms with a reputation for hauntings. I wasn't looking for thrills. I just wanted to experience the ship's grandeur. So when I arrived, I was surprised to find that the hotel staff had upgraded me to a suite, a cabin from the ship's golden age, untouched by modern renovations. I was thrilled, oblivious to the fact that I was being sent into the heart of something I couldn't understand. The hallways of the Queen Mary felt both timeless and eerie, filled with the creaks and groans of the ship settling against the dock. I found my cabin without much trouble, tucked away in a quieter part of the ship. It was beautiful, really. Ornate wood paneling, vintage lamps casting a soft amber glow, and heavy velvet drapes framing a porthole that overlooked the black water of the harbor. There was something enchanting about the room, as if it had been waiting for someone like me to occupy it again. I set my suitcase down, took in the surroundings, and decided to explore the ship. As I wandered through its corridors, I marveled at how well preserved everything was. The grand ballroom, the observation deck, the swimming pool, they all whispered of a different era. The ship felt alive in a way, but not in the same sense as any other building or structure I had ever been in. It was as though it had a memory of its own, one that lingered in every corner. The first strange thing happened while I was exploring the ship's lower decks. I was walking past the old first-class pool, which had been drained and closed for decades, but I could hear the unmistakable sound of splashing water echoing in the chamber. At first I thought maybe there was a tour group passing through or that some maintenance work was being done. But when I peeked through the small window in the door, the pool was empty, bone dry. The sound of water splashing around continued as if someone were swimming, yet there was no one in sight. I backed away slowly, goosebumps rising on my arms. It's nothing, I told myself. Old pipes or some kind of weird acoustics. I laughed nervously and decided to head back to my cabin, chalking it up to the ship's age playing tricks on my senses. By the time I returned to my room, it was well past midnight. The Queen Mary was known for being a bit of a maze, and the more I navigated the ship's endless hallways, the more disoriented I became. As I reached my cabin door, a chill swept down my spine, the kind that makes your breath catch in your throat. It was cold, unnaturally cold. I stepped inside and immediately noticed the temperature drop even further. My breath was visible in the dim light, and the air felt heavy, oppressive. Must be a draft, I muttered, though I couldn't figure out where it could be coming from. I shut the door behind me, locked it, and sat down on the edge of the bed. The room felt different, as if something had changed while I was gone. The ship groaned again, this time louder than before, and the lights flickered for just a moment. My stomach twisted with a sudden, inexplicable dread. That's when I heard it. A soft, low whisper from somewhere inside the room. It wasn't words, not really. More like a breath, a sigh, almost as if someone was standing right behind me, close enough for their lips to brush against my ear. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The sound was so faint, I could almost convince myself I'd imagined it. But then it came again, louder this time, like someone was trying to speak but couldn't quite form the words. Is someone there? I asked, my voice trembling. Silence. I stood up, my legs shaky, and walked to the small bathroom. The light inside was flickering weakly. When I stepped in front of the mirror, I nearly screamed. There was a handprint on the glass, small, delicate, as if made by a child. But I hadn't touched the mirror, and no one else had been in the room. I wiped it away with a trembling hand, only for it to reappear as soon as I moved my hand. I stumbled back, crashing into the doorframe. The air in the bathroom felt suffocating, like something was pressing down on me. I ran out, slamming the bathroom door behind me. But as I leaned against it, trying to catch my breath, I heard the whisper again, this time from the bed. I turned slowly. The bedspread had been neatly turned down when I arrived, but now it was rumpled, as if someone had lain there in my absence. The indentation of a body pressed deep into the mattress, and the outline of a head on the pillow was unmistakable. I backed away, my mind racing. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling to dial the front desk, but the line crackled and cut out before I could say a word. Suddenly, the temperature in the room plummeted even further, and I could see my breath in front of me. The ship groaned again, louder this time, like it was crying out in pain. Then I heard a child's laugh, faint but clear, coming from the direction of the porthole. I turned toward the window, my body frozen in terror. The porthole, which had been bolted shut, was now slightly open, and outside there was something there. A face, pale and gaunt, peering in at me from the other side. Its eyes were black, hollow, and filled with a kind of malevolent hunger that made my blood run cold. Its mouth stretched into a grotesque grin, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too many. I stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the bed and crashing to the floor. When I looked up, the face was gone, but the room was still filled with that oppressive sense of dread. The whispering started again, louder this time, like a chorus of voices all around me. They were everywhere, surrounding me, closing in. I scrambled to my feet and bolted for the door. But no matter how hard I twisted the knob, it wouldn't open. It was stuck, locked, trapping me inside. The whispers grew louder, filling my ears until I thought I would go mad from the sound. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. The room fell silent. The temperature returned to normal, and the oppressive feeling lifted. I stood there, panting, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the porthole, waiting for the face to return. But it didn't. When morning finally came, I packed my things and left without looking back. As I checked out, I asked the woman at the front desk about the room I had stayed in, hoping for some kind of rational explanation. She gave me a tight-lipped smile and shook her head. "That cabin isn't usually booked," she said. "Most guests who stay there don't last the night." I nodded, not sure what to say. As I left the Queen Mary for good, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me, that whatever had been in that room was still watching, waiting for me to return. I never did, and I never will.